Welcome to another ShuBuilds tutorial. Before we start with this tutorial, if you like this type of theme or design, I suggest you go, if you haven't already, check out iKotori. She does these amazing builds with this type of style. And of course my good friend Txics. Check out their channel. Don't forget to subscribe and support them. And what we're going to be building today is a few variations of this design, and we're going to make a few changes to it as well, because yeah,
mão pro alto, já tava te vendo. É assalto, olha minha Draco. Não é clique de Canon. Lanço mais.
Alright, before we start building, like I said in every single video so far, make sure that you first figure out your rooms. And other than that, put all your items that you're going to be using to build this design on a wall, and then color them. I'm going to be using two variations, like I said before. The one that I used on the pink house is going to be the curved window with two different shapes, and then the other one is the standard window, different shapes. Now, one of the things that is most commonly used is these windows, mainly because of the shutters, and that is because the shutters on these don't look so good. Of course, if you do prefer it, go for it. And then the two versions that we're going to be making is these two. Now, I'm aware that most of these buildings are shaped in several different directions, so I'll show you different directions that you can be using these styles. And that's also the reason why we have two different shapes, two different size windows, because of the walls. And the two types of walls that we're going to be using for the big window is the 4, for the small one is the 2. Now you can put these in any directions that you going to be building your house in. This one would be for the big window, and then this one for the small window. So if you have a small window right there and right there, you put the small windows right there. Now if you do bigger rooms or have rooms, you can also just mix it by making the two wall this way and then this way. This is of course completely up to you. If you go sideways, it gets a little bit trickier, but it works as well if you do the two right here. Make sure you go this direction, because if you end up going this direction, it will look a little bit off when you start adding the pillars. But it still works. But I suggest going straight lines for these kind of builds, mainly because of the roof that you're going to be putting on top of it. If you have any kind of sideways walls, you're gonna have some problems with this type of roof. So let's get started. First, and the most basic version of it. Now let's show you which colors I used first. Probably a good idea. For this one, we'll be using the seashell with the plastic, and everything is gonna be with this style. And we're gonna be using these at the top. We're gonna be using these at the top. Simplicity shelf, and then for the borders we're going to be using the oak shelf, and of course again with the border lights of the two different directions. And then we're going to be using this now because of the gardening update, the wall planters under the windows, instead of using these oak shelves under the windows that I used on my builds. Of course this is completely up to you which one you like more. And then also there is a little variation that I made here. So with the white paintings, use them as a border on the outside with any kind of brick. If you decide to use the bricks that I used here, which is just the normal brick, or the stone lines. Of course this is also has a different version, which is the planks. This one is also used a lot. Do be aware though that these type of windows tend to mess up your texture. much more than these do. So be aware of that when you use these instead of these. Alright. Now for the coloring that I used over here, it's gonna be dark stone gray, and of course with the plastic again. The reason I use plastic and not the other plastic is because of the texture that you see here. I think it creates a little bit more depth on the outside. Of course, if you just like to have it solid like this, use a smooth plastic. Or if you want to go for something more realistic on the outside, it would be the concrete. I feel like this makes it a little bit too dark for my taste, but if you prefer this, it still looks good, I think. But that is completely up to you. So let's start off making this one right here. This is going to be the gray one. Of course, first the texture on the wall, so you don't have any troubles adding them later. And then we're gonna do the pillars on the sides. Make sure this is on 2, so you can put them right there. And we're gonna be copying these windows on here, and then the other one right there. As you can see, the reason why I did the 4 instead of the 2, which is the size of the window, is because of the shutters. This will give you enough space to copy the shutters and not be blocked by the wall, the pillars or the walls. Change these to these. Quickly do that. There we go. Now this is a very basic wall design. There's not much going on, so if you are worried about your data, which is always a problem, this one will not hurt as much. And then we add the light on top. And for these lights, again, like you saw earlier, don't use the white lights because yeah, use either medium stone gray to make them still look white, or if you want to keep it a little bit darker and still look the same as everything else, and you got no choices because they will all look like that. So I suggest if you want to keep them white, do the medium stone gray, because as you can see, the light difference between white and gray is quite a bit, especially once you start adding lights inside of your house. So we got the base window, and then for the floor right here, we're gonna be using the minor stone wall. And then we're gonna add the planters on the 3x3, because if you use the 2 to show you, you can put it right there. Again, this is personal preference. If you don't want these planters under there, just use the oak shelf. There we go. The oak shelf at the bottom. I'm using the 2x2 for that one. Right there. And then now there's 2 different versions that you can do this one. Is either keep them like that, which is what I did with the pink one, or if you want to have a solid one, add one more in the middle, right there. Make sure this is 2x2, so you don't have to mess around on getting it positioned correctly. And then final touches to make the wall a little bit more occupied. Oops, I copied the window on the wall. You can either do this by 2x2 or like I did right here, like this, but you're gonna have a problem positioning this one because it will end up with a little space at the top. So what I do is just manually place it right there in the middle, so that you can go all the way to the top. And then with this one, we have our main design completed. Now I like this little border right here, because it creates a little bit more depth, especially when you start putting the roof on top. This, for me, depends on how you personally like to make it look like. You leave a little space in there, or like I did with my other one, I just place it right on top of it. That blocks the bottom of the border and becomes all part of it. As you can see, personally like this little very small detail that creates more details on the overall design once you start having points of these walls. It's a little tricky to get them in there, but I think personally I like how these walls end up looking. As you can see, it's very simple, very straightforward, but it creates a lot more depth on your build, and looks pretty good. Now for the pink version that I did on the pink house build, this has pillars right next to the window. The reason why I did that is because it has no shutters on the outside, so I decided to add pillars. However, if you end up putting the pillars right here, you're gonna have a problem on the other side, where you will not be able to put the curtains because they will get blocked by the pillars. If you want to have the curtains, or at least the designed curtains here, just put this one block out so that it's not against it. I think it still looks pretty decent on the outside as well. And when you do this, you add a curtain right there. Say this one. Let's make this one that. Still looks nice, and it all still comes together on the inside, and it doesn't mess up too much on the outside. I'm gonna keep it like this for now instead of this version. If you like this version and you don't want to use the curtains, then by all means go for this one. And then the final touches. Of course, don't forget the wall texture. Again, if you want to end up using this one, be aware that the texture gets messed up. I personally, on a lot of builds that I've done for people, I ended up using the concrete instead because the texture is not as noticeable when it moves a little bit, as you can see here. But this really is very small, and if you don't mind it, then go for that. Also, for a lot of builds, what they do is just go for the plastic instead, because it you don't have to worry about the textures moving or anything. But this is completely up to you. If you use any kind of lines or bricks, if you can see right here, they're gonna move. So this is up to you if you want to use these windows. I personally don't like them as much, but for certain themes that people go for, these work the best. So the reason I use these pillars in the corners is because when you start moving it out like this, with this wall, with the 2x2, I think this creates a little bit more depth on your build. It creates a little bit of extra detail when you go around the corners like this than it would be if you use two of these pillars. This, of course, personal preference. If you like either one, go for it. Then we finish it up with this one. Now again, like I said, on the pink build, I just did this. looks still pretty nice, I think. This is completely up to you which version of these you prefer. Suggest you experiment a little bit on the overall look that you might enjoy more. And then, as you can see right here, you will not need to put anything in the middle right here, because this will be smaller and you're gonna have it stick out right there. So make sure you go towards the end so it doesn't. As you can see right here. But you will have to make sure that you put them on the same level. Like there. For the final touch. Put either one right there and continue doing the whole thing like I did on this one. Or you just keep it as a small detail. Fill up the wall a little bit like that. So, whichever version that you prefer, I suggest check it out and see which one will fit better on the builds that you're going to be doing. You can incorporate this type of style on any kind of builds that are modern or modern-ish, like I mentioned earlier with the channels of the speed builds. It's completely up to you if you want to end up using them, because like I said, they fit perfectly with all those kinds of builds. Now we're going to copy this one and show you that the directions of using these type of walls you don't have to worry about, because it will all come together nicely. As you can see, create a nice little space right here. If you want to end up using the 4, do the same thing. If you want to use this one 4, do the same thing, but use this wall instead. If you just want to keep it like this and go like that. Also, when you want to move the pillars, you're gonna have a problem with this one, because you're gonna have to move these pillars manually. You won't be able to if you put this first, because this pillar can only be placed on this wall when there's nothing on there. The only thing you're going to be able to manage to do that is by the 2x2, which you won't be able to place the pillar right there, as you can see. So do that little border all the way at the end, after you completed the whole design of your wall. Now as for the border, this border can only be used starting at the 4, because they will stick out. As you can see right here, it's also going to be just barely too small for this wall. As you can see, it doesn't work when the pillars are right there. This will be the center. And won't be allowed to put these there anymore. So that's the problem with these paintings. If you want to use these, go ahead, but like you saw right there, once you put those sizes, these pillars won't be able to be placed anymore. So if you want to use those paintings, put it back. You will have to create them like that. Or if you want to stick them in there, I think we can manage to do that. Nope, not with these. Just do it like that. This is just a small, very small detail. If you want to use them with the pillars, then I suggest using the other paintings, which were the square ones. If I'm not mistaken, we can put those right there. to the lights. Go to the other side. You can use these same way that I did with the other build. That's probably what's going on here. I have my advanced placement turned off. So in watching the video is probably going like, if you just turn advanced placement on, it will work. I'm sorry, like I said before, it's really hot. Anyway, as you can see, you are left with a little space, so you will not be able to place these in there. If you're going to be using paintings, I suggest using these or these regular paintings. It should, if I remember correctly, fit right there in the middle. And you create this nice little border. Of course, like with on this side, you can do the same thing. Create a nice little border at the bottom, or on the inside. I think personally for tiling the borders, I like the square more, because if I do this right anyway, put a pillar right there. Create this shape. What most people end up doing is making this white and using some kind of white effect inside with the plastic. And then use the white painting that you can find. Just type in white panel, and then we'll create a little panel on the inside. The same thing can be done on the outside. Just stack that under it. Right there. Right there. See? Then you can create the brick little panel that I have going on right here. This is a very tiny detail, but I think it looks nice on both the outside and on the inside. This is completely up to you which version you decide to end up using. As for the second floor, you can do the exact same thing that you did at the bottom. It doesn't really change much, but if you're gonna be using slanted walls, or slanted roofs actually, which would be like this. You don't have to worry about the bottom border, because if you have this set on 2x2, that border is completely gone. So all you do is the designs at the top. You're good to go. Now if you have it by 2, and it looks like this, but if you go by 1, you get a little bit more space at the bottom. Right there, and then you can add the planter, which will look like this. Wait, go back up there. There we go. It will look like that. If you have any comments or requests about this style, let me know in the description below. Don't forget to support, of course, my fellow YouTubers. And we just hit 400 subscribers. It's awesome, guys. And hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, let me know. And I hope this helped. And hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I'll see you in the next one. I'm gonna go put my head in the freezer right now, because as you can see, I'm melting. See you in the next one.